Hello, Automating Success followers. I'm your host, Joe Langton, and I have Guy today. Guy is with Unlimited Robotics, and this is kind of a different robot than you're used to seeing on the show. It's actually, in my opinion, one of the coolest, most cutting edge things that I've seen so far. But I'm going to let Guy explain it, kind of break into who he is, what the product is, and what inspired you to make the product. So
First of all, thank you so much for having me, Joe. Really appreciate your time and the audience time. I really flattered to have been participating in this show. My name is Guy. I'm the CEO of Unlimited Robotics. We are a startup currently located in Israel, but we do have other offices in Georgia, in Colombia, and in California. We have teams spread it and helping us to build what we believe to be a game changer in the robotic field. And I'll explain. Usually, what we see today in most cases are robots that can only perform one action. And besides that fact, it's very challenging for any developer to build robotic applications. Why? Because they need the hardware, they need to understand how to program for that specific hardware. They need to know the mapping, the navigation, and a lot of elements that not necessarily a standard programmer can understand and can program with. This is why we built Unlimited Robotics, and we offer basically two platforms. The first one is Gary, named after my three kids, Gali, Rani, and Yael. So Gary is a multifunctional robot. It has 20 sensors, 3 cameras, the ability to move in the space, the ability to navigate. It has 2 arms. It can carry on a baggage of almost 7 kilos. It can climb upstairs. It can communicate with you in different types of interactions and more and more. And the way we built it is to make it very simple and easy for any software developer to build applications on Gary exactly like people today are doing for Android device or for the App Store. Imagine that a certain programmer wants to help Joe to find a solution to his laundry problem. Joe works all day and he doesn't have anyone that takes out the laundry from the laundry machine and puts it in the dryer, waiting for Joe to come back from work completely dry. Gary will be able to do that. A programmer will be able to build an application designed specifically for that. Imagine a person who has a physical disability and the grocery store just delivered the weekly delivery for that person's house. Gary will be able to pick up, to identify each of the groceries in the bag, place them in the right cabinet in the refrigerator, and bring that person with a physical disability the banana that that person wants while sitting in the living room. There is an unlimited amount of options and possibilities to program Gary, and we made it extremely easily for any software developer to just continue with their ongoing programming coding as they know it, and we allow them with our technology to build different apps for different use cases, home environment, business environment, offices, and more. So I hope I've been able to explain what we do because we're super excited about that.
so I'm super excited about it. So I had said to you before in my pre-show research, I actually went online, saw how easy you make it to book one of these things. So first thing, I was telling my fiance about it, and she went, "So does it go upstairs?" And I was like, "Ah, it doesn't look like it. Maybe we'll get one for each floor or something, because I'm being serious. Like I'm going to get one of these." And but now you say it climbs upstairs. So first of
Yes.
all, I'm interested because when people go online, they're going to see this. So how does that happen? How does it navigate stairs? I'm interested in knowing that.
Okay, the current version that we have in the lab has 4 Omni-Meccano wheels, so they can definitely go through different types of areas in the same floor, on the same level. However, the version that will meet the end customer will have caterpillars. And those caterpillars, like a tank, will be able to climb up the stairs. And we build Gary that way that the center of heaviness of Gary would be the bottom. Why we build it that way? So he will be very, very not I mean, it will be very difficult for any other person, like a kid, a dog, a cat, or just somebody pulling in Gary to to dropping to the floor. And we want to make it as stable as possible. So when he carries out the laundry bag, for example, he can also climb the stairs and not dropping it down. So the final version, who will meet the customers during spring 2022, will have caterpillars that will help Gary to climb up the stairs.
So how many pre-orders do you have for Gary right now?
Hundreds.
That's awesome. So I'm actually surprised it wasn't thousands. Like I said, when I looked it up, I was like, wow, this is pretty awesome. So a few questions. I'll just kind of ask questions that I've been wondering, which I'm sure a lot of people would wonder if they checked out the product. So first thing, how many apps currently are already developed for Gary?
So besides the basic functionality apps, which means the mapping, the navigation inside the environment, the computer vision apps, for example, you send Gary to bring you the tissue, whatever, from the bathroom or whatever, we built two apps that are integrated into Gary and will be available for people to do. The first one is Pick and Bring. What do we mean by that? Is you can send Gary to your kids' room to pick up the kids' toys left on the floor and place them in a certain area that you designed. One very important note, that the first interactions with Gary will be very similar to hosting a 10-year-old kid in your house. I mean that you will need to teach him where to place each and every one of the parts, because Gary doesn't know your house, doesn't know your preferences, and you will need to teach him, okay, Gary, this is what I consider to be a toy. Please take it and place it in the bag that is located here. Gary will perform the activity and then will ask you back for a feedback. Now, the great thing that we teach Gary is that during the feedback that you'll provide him, probably the feedback will be, hey, okay, Gary, you made it like a 70% success. Then Gary will ask you, okay, Joe, how can I improve? What did I did wrong? You'll explain. And the next time Gary will ask a feedback again and again and again until you're happy and satisfied for the performance. From that moment on, Gary will probably make an excellent performance. The great thing is that Gary teaches other robots about this activity and about the identification of the objects. So if, for example, you have a Pokemon doll of one of your kids lied on the floor, Gary will be able to identify that this is a toy, place it in the bag, and this is what happens in Joe's house in the United States. But if Gary is now doing the same activity in the United Kingdom or in China or in Australia, and there will be a Pokemon doll on the floor, Gary will not ask again the owner of the home whether this is a doll or not. Gary will already know that this is a doll. So each of the robots spread in the field will teach the other robots how to improve with our technology. So this is the first app that will be also already integrated in the first version. The second app will be not just bring and place, will be bring and spread. What do I mean by that? You have, for example, dishwasher full of dishes. You will teach Gary exactly in each cupboard where to place each of the elements that are currently in the dishwasher. So the first app that you'll get will be identifying the dishwasher. You will need to teach Gary that the cup is laid here, the glass is laid there, the plate is laid here, and Gary will be able to perform that with one limitation. Gary's hands can reach up to a level of 2 meters and 10 centimeters. So if the cupboard is higher than that, Gary will just tell you, listen, Joe, currently I have a restrictions not allowing me to place this, I don't cup in the upper cupboard. But this will be a restriction that will, I hope that will solve eventually by over the air. We can update as well the software. But besides those two apps, we will also enable people to start downloading apps developed by third parties. For example, cleaning your toilet seat, arranging your towels in the right place, bringing stuff from one place to the other. For example, bringing the laundry, the folded laundry, to different rooms inside the house, maybe even not promising, maybe even placing them in the right shelf, and more and more and more. And these are just the apps that are designed for the home environment. I'm not even talking about the apps that are designed for the office, hotels, nursing homes, and hospitals. This is a different conversation.
Well, see, this is the conversation I kind of want to have. So maybe it's a different podcast because so one of the things, that I'm into robotic lawnmowers and stuff like that. And I saw this last night and I said to my daughter, I said, Julia, we are going to get one of these for the dealership at Automated Outdoor. It's going to greet our customers when it walks in, and we're going to try to figure out like how it basically takes people to certain areas, and like these are the things I'm wondering. If a customer walks in and and Gary says, welcome to Automated Outdoor, how can I help you? And if they say, well, I'm looking for a Husqvarna chainsaw, it can say, here is the Husqvarna chainsaw. Like, right? I'm
Easily.
assuming these things can happen.
Easily. The way we're going to do that is from the first moment you'll get Gary, the first interaction will be showing him the environment and mapping together with him the environment. So Gary has a LiDAR that helps him with the mapping of the environment that he arrives to. And you walk him through the area. Gary will know the different areas where are located, where are the locations, the coordinates and everything. And then you as a user will choose the right hexagon and define it as an area designed for, I don't know, bathroom, an area designed for greeting people, an area designed for, I don't know, laundry machine room, and each and every room will be defined by you. So next time Gary will be asked to stay in the lobby and take people, or be asked to take people from the lobby to point X or point XY, he will be able to reach to the center of that specific area because it was predefined while mapping together with the host the environment ex ante.
So this is fascinating. So, I mean, I got to be honest, it might be kind of hard for me to get through this podcast because I might just keep asking you questions for an hour and a half.
You're welcome.
Okay. So now my mind kind of starts to go, and I think, okay, let's say I leave it in my place of business or even in my home. I don't know if anybody's written this app. Maybe I need to start to write this app. Is now, I'm sure you see, say you have LiDAR, so it obviously can detect motion. I'm sure it has some onboard cameras, right? So I could literally, I'm trying to figure out how I link this up to my security system, because
Very easy.
right, and it's like such a value. I mean, it's like you have a 24-hour like constant surveillance mechanism in your commercial facilities.
So one of the main apps that are already being built by different developers are security surveillance applications for offices and businesses. So Gary will patrol inside the area and just be able to record or to identify, objects or things that are not supposed to be there at those, at night or out of work hours. Definitely one of the apps that will be available in the App Store for office business and maybe for home environment as well.
Well, and my brain is going crazy with this, with like, okay, so my company provides robotic mowing services, right? And that's why it's Automated Outdoor Solutions. But then I'm looking at this like, well, this is an automated indoor solution. But then people come to me and say, Joe, when do you have a robot that's going to pick up dog poop. Okay. And I'm thinking, okay, well, then I'm thinking, is this thing waterproof? Why could it not perform that task? Why can't there be an outdoor Gary and an indoor Gary, and outdoor Gary. So have you guys thought about that yet too? Is that coming? I might be really going abstract here on you, but it's the way my brain works, so I can't help
No.
myself.
These are amazing, amazing, amazing ideas and concepts that we're thinking about almost every day. There is a huge challenge of making a robot outdoor, which I currently afraid will make it a lot more expensive than the indoor robot. And the reason to make it much more expensive is because the entire movement process will need to be either more controlled or definitely more controlled, because in outdoor there are different types of levels. There is the, I don't know, the side steps and the road and maybe bicycle roads and some, different types of terrains in which a standard caterpillar can perform on, but it will take it probably longer to perform, or it will be much, much more slower, which may create some kind of an odd movement or something. I mean, which the human eye will not be customized to see. The other element will be something pretty similar to what Boston Dynamics have been doing for the past couple of years, and they are amazing, but it's extremely expensive to have such a robot for outdoor activity. So I think that strategically, it's a great idea and something that we think of. I'm not sure how affordable it will be for the standard person, I mean, the regular person to purchase. But definitely as time goes by and the manufacturing and the technology will be better and better, I'm pretty much sure that we will see more and more outdoor robots, more and more. But currently, I'm afraid it's not so cost effective in terms of the customer.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I mean, it just kind of we're like instantly, obviously I go to outside because I do outdoor automation, but I look and I hear you say, okay, you can teach the robot to pick up certain clothes and toys and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, wow, it's like, even for myself, the biggest hindrance for outdoor like robotic mowing is Johnny leaves his baseball bat out and the robot gets caught on the bat and somebody has to go pick up the bat. Well, if Gary could see the bat and pick up the bat and hit the start button on the robot again, boom, I don't have to send a technician out, and it's totally worth it to me at a monthly charge. So these are things, guy, off show we'll have to start to brainstorm together on. But so this is why I love the show. I'm telling you, this is the stuff that happens to me every time I have somebody on. So going back to the indoor Gary and kind of what you've developed it for. Guy, what made you decide I'm going to make a robot named after my three kids? This is like, there's a need for this. Explain that a little to us.
So I have amazing three kids, but they make a lot of mess. And that drives me crazy that they place every object on the floor. They throw the towels after their shower, and nothing is organized. And I said to myself, well, I have to solve it. I'm not at the age that I want to go and chase them and yell at them, go bring back the towel to the bathroom and everything. So I decided that maybe we'll be able to build some kind of an automatic device that will perform that activity. And then I got into the robotic worlds and to the understanding how complicated it is for a regular programmer to go into the robotic worlds and build something. I'm not talking even on a multi-purpose level. I'm talking about a single functional robot, extremely, extremely difficult. I need the mapping, the navigation, the AI, the computer vision, all of those stuff. And I said, well, there probably out there some operating system tools for programmers that will make it very easy for a standard programmer to develop robotic applications. I couldn't find one. And then I decided, okay, I will build one. I will build an operating system that helps people like me to build apps that will be integrated into a device that can perform those activities. Now I just need to find a robot. Okay, where can I find a robot? I searched for a robot and I couldn't find one. So I said, okay, I guess I need to build a robot as well. And at that point, I decided to open up Unlimited Robotics. I founded Unlimited Robotics with two amazing partners, Martin Gordon, who is heading our entire software and programming department, and Dr. Eli Kohlberg, who headed the robotic departments in one of the biggest universities in Israel. And the three of us co-founded Unlimited Robotics, and we grew up to a team of almost 30 people in the past year, developing the infrastructure and the operating system for other developers to build in a very, very simple way robotic applications.
So I love it, and I love even how you brought up how you built a team of 30 people because I don't know if you experience this in Israel, but out in the United States, every time a guy like me starts talking about how awesome automation is, you get people saying how you're taking away jobs and how are all these people going to survive? And then I hear you just built a team of 30 people, probably
Yeah.
30 people that absolutely love what they're doing. They come to work with a smile on their face every day. So that's inspiring. It's great to hear for people listening. So tell me about how you look at this and say, okay, there is no robot to satisfy this need. There's not software or basic logic to do what I need to do. So I need to develop that too. And what made you decide to do it with a robot, not just hire just someone to clean the house? I don't want to call them a maid, but a housekeeper or something. And what background, obviously you obviously have a background to build this. So kind of break into that too, like what you went to school for and what you did before you built Gary.
So the thing with robots replacing employees and workforce is a subject that is close to the heart of many people, and I want to refer to it like very specifically. I'm not concerned of that fact. I don't even think it's a problem, and I'll explain. I think that the workforce today is going through a certain evolution. If, like in the last century, people were working in the beginning of the century in the field as farmers, they have been evolved, and farming has become just a small part of the entire GDP of a lot of countries. So it created a different types of industry, from farming to industry for services like accounting, like legal, like marketing activities, and more. And you see workforce that is going through a certain evolution. So what I believe will happen in the next 50 years will be, it's not a replacement, but it's a change of people going from, let's call that blue collar works. You called it a maid, maybe people working on the assembly line in factories, maybe even farmers on certain types of activities, but mostly for those repetitive, boring jobs. I think that for those specific activities, people will not longer will be willing to work for those, minimum wage salary. They will need to find, and they will want to find, different types of engagements, different types of professions that will also be evolving together with the society. So for those specific type of jobs, I believe that robots will, yes, will have like a dominant part in those industries. For example, people cleaning toilets in malls, in airports, in janitors in schools, or doing stuff that is a repetitive and boring job. I believe that in the next, I don't know, 10 years, we'll be seeing more and more robots doing that type of jobs. And those people are doing other stuff, maybe providing services in terms of fixing those robots or doing stuff together with them. So this is something that I wanted to refer to.
So, you're totally right. And, some of the things that people don't think about, why is the industry going this way? Well, first of all, people are just not mentally stimulated by tasks like washing a toilet or sweeping a floor or cutting grass. Okay, like these tasks are redundant. There's no mental stimulation, and the burnout level on jobs like this are high. So, and then secondly, there's a lot of injuries and things that happen for those types of jobs. Workers' comp rates, at least in the United States, are continuously on the rise. So there is a huge need for the stuff that you're saying, and and everybody talks about jobs, and there's just fewer and fewer people that want a job in a service industry. So,
You're right.
but there's tons of people that want jobs with robots, and I'm finding that myself, and I think you're going to find that also in your path is when companies start buying solutions like yours or solutions like ours. Um, it's really been quite easy for me to find people to service those robots because it's a cool job and they can brag on it. Robotics are cool. It doesn't make a difference how you cut it. So so tell me about your background then. What skills, what enabled you to be able to just say, I've got a problem and I'm making Gary?
So first of all, my career started as a lawyer, as an M&A tech lawyer. I studied law and economics. I wanted to become a judge in court in order to help and change and impact people's lives. And I think this is something that really guides me through my entire career is that I want to make impact on people's life. So I started as a legal attorney, as an attorney at law. I hated the work. I thought that it doesn't create any type of impact except for my corporate clients who make a lot of money. But I felt that I can contribute more to people by trying to find different types of problems that they are facing and trying to find solution for those problems. And when I left law, I started another company in the field of HR tech, helping people just graduating from university, from college, to find their first job while recording themselves for a 30-second interview. And the system actually build a transcript based on that specific video, assuming that because of those people don't have the right CV or don't have the enough experience, their articulate way to express themselves will help them to find their first job. And the app went really, really well. We've been able to sell it to different organizations, and a lot of people found jobs thanks to this app. And then we made a small change to the app. We've been changing ownership of the app, and I decided to help people with the robotics field. But I've been always been occupied with trying to find problems and then trying to find the optimal solutions. I guess this is what guided me my entire career, in the past 10 years.
So how long were you an attorney before you realized this is just not for me? I need to do something different.
Too long, too long.
That's how
Uh,
that's how I feel about my past as a union electrician. So we share this in common. But so too long for me was 11 years. How long was it for you?
6 years, 6 long years, 6 very long years, which were very, very long, Joe.
So do you ever find I'm interested to hear this. So now that I'm doing what I love, I mean, I don't have to wake up to an alarm clock anymore. I just get up. I'm ready to work, like right out of bed. I'm like ready to roll. But I sometimes drive past places where I worked in that career that I didn't love, and I get this like feeling in the pit of my stomach, like literally, like I can almost still feel the dread of going to that job. Is that kind of how it is for you now that you found something that I can tell you obviously love?
I think that, yes, definitely I can identify what you're saying, but I think that the most important thing in a workplace, whether you're an employee or whether you're the owner of the workplace, is to have a clear mission and a clear vision. Because once you have those vision and mission, it can be any type of mission or any type of vision, but then you will be able to find the right team that shares the same vision and mission with you, and the entire day and the entire aspiration to find the solutions will not be considered as something, as work. It will be considered as part as your day-to-day activity, and it will make the entire workplace easier, much more, comfortable to go to, and you'll be going with a smile instead of with a duty or a burden you have to carry. So I think that those places I couldn't, find common space or share this. The places which I didn't like going to work for are the places in which I didn't share the same vision or mission with what they seem to have as a mission or a vision. So this is a tip from me to anybody hearing this, is to have a clear vision and mission that can be shared with other team members.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And that I think when you have that, you instead of checking your watch or your clock to see when break time is or when lunch time is or when the end of the day is, that you just find yourself doing kind of just the day flies by because you're actually passionate about what your mission is. And it's a team mission. It's like you're working on it together, so you're accountable to other people on the team. That's I think what's cool. And I think that's what's really cool about robotics. I mean, even when you're talking about okay, so you've got the robot, which is what we look at, what we see. But at the end of the day, there has to be some sort of logic or programming or app, basically saying this is the task that you're performing in a linear step-by-step setup. So to not dwell on that too long, because I want to circle back to the bot itself, Gary. So Gary obviously has AI. You said it's learning all over the world.
Yes.
So, in your vision, how quick is there a Gary 2.0, or how quick does, when Gary comes out and Gary's this 10-year-old, like you said, how quickly does Gary turn into a college graduate in your mind?
So I think it's a process. It's a process that we are still building. I wouldn't say that we have all the answers. And this is why we opened the project for other developers to help us build it as an open source, because we feel that the knowledge in the community is much, much bigger than the knowledge any 30 as talented as they can be team will have in the lab. So I guess it's a matter of time. I don't have a clear answer, unfortunately, how much time it will take him to go from a college student. My gut feeling tells me it will take between a year to 3 years until the entire evolution and the community contribution to that specific issue will be stable enough so I can give an answer. So I can call you and say, hey, Joe, remember our call in 2021? Yes, now it's 2023. And yes, Gary's a college graduate. I think it will take time. My gut feeling tells me that it will take between a year to three, somewhere in between.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. When that happens, we're going to do another podcast, and we're going to call it Gary graduated college
Amazing.
2023. That's what we're going to do, because I think that'll be pretty awesome. So let's book it now. So
Amazing.
so the so uh okay, so I think it's brilliant that you allowed the open sourcing and the people around it to contribute, because that is, I think, what's so cool about robotics is the robotics community in general. We all see things from kind of a different perspective, but when you tie all of those things in, you get one amazing product. So if somebody is listening to my podcast right now and they are great at building apps, Okay. Like for instance, my daughter and I just built an app. Okay. With a third party. Okay.
Okay.
But now how do they tie it in and how do they monetize that or make it worth it? Like I'm assuming people can just buy those apps and plug them into Gary. Is that how that works?
Exactly. There will be a skill store on Gary, integrated into Gary, exactly like people have on their app store. I mean, if they have an iPhone or if they have an Android device, so on their Google Play Store, it will have like a skill store in which people can upload any type of apps developed by those people. It can be individuals, or it can be like software companies that build a certain business app or other kind of private app, whatever. And the user will be then decide whether he wants to or she wants to pay for the app or not based on the discretion of the developer that uploaded the app to the skill store. It can be either a paid or a free app, depends on the developer discretion. And once the user downloads the app and start using it, there is a revenue share of 70% going to the developer and 30% going to Unlimited Robotics. So the developer can actually generate revenues from apps that are functional and are being used by different types of users worldwide.
Brilliant. That's amazing. Well, that's good because that's by allowing the app developer, the 70-30 split for your platform, that's going to basically entice a lot of people to think about apps that can layer onto Gary. So that's awesome. So how do you get Gary in the household, right? Like because I look at it and say, and I already did some research, so I'm gonna let you say it, but I look at it and I'm like, man, how much money is it going to cost me to put a Gary in my house? And then I go online and I'm like, this is all I have to do to get a Gary. So why don't you explain? Because I did see on the site, you can pay monthly or you can you can buy a Gary. So can you break
Yes.
into that here?
Okay, so our business model basically allows the users to decide whether they want to pay on a monthly basis or they want to pay like a full-time fee and get Gary at once, depends on their discretion. If a user is registered to our waiting list, then that user needs to save a spot for $99. Once Gary is ready, we will contact Unlimited Robotics team will contact that user and ask whether he wants to pay a monthly installments of $99 or a one-time fee of $5,900. Depends on the user itself. For people who are not registered in the waiting list and will probably get Gary somewhere between summer or winter 2022, because those people who are registered to the waiting list will get Gary in spring 2022. Though, then for those people who are not registered in the waiting list, the monthly cost will be between $129 to $149 per month. Now, putting that aside, each app, as described before, will either be a free app or a paid app, depends on the discretion of the developer. And obviously, the user will be able to choose whether they want to use it or not based on its, payment method. And that's it. Yes, that's it.
That's awesome. I like the monthly. I thought that was pretty awesome because I can tell you 9 out of 10 of my robotic mowing customers I'll pay monthly. So how does that work then with the warranty on the monthly? So when you're paying the monthly, is it always covered or is it only covered for a certain amount of time? Can you go into that too?
So the basic warranty is 12-month warranty. This is
Okay.
something for sure. The extended warranty for the other 12 months, for a period extending the 12 months, will cost between $1 to $1.50 per month, just to make sure that we are on the same page. But it will be a basic fee covering minimal costs for fixing, if needed, parts of Gary.
That's awesome. And so see, like that's cool to see you guys are kind of figuring that stuff out because it's questions people are going to have, and I'm
Okay.
hoping that, when people hear it, they don't have to do much research and they do it. So, because I can tell you, like, even hearing what you said, I like I said when the show started, no doubt in my mind, I want one at my automated outdoor dealership. Likely will get one in my house. Because like you said, one of the reasons I don't even say that I have a Roomba, which when I had Helen Grenier on the show, she couldn't believe I'm the robot. I'm automated success, and I don't have a Roomba in my house, but I don't have it because I have two dogs and there's dog toys always all over the place. And I'm thinking I would always have to like clean pick my house every day before the vacuum comes out. But I could literally tell Gary, pick this up, don't let this be here. And between Gary and my Roomba, my house will always be vacuumed. And this is kind of
For
where I
sure.
see Gary just kind of being like that constant housekeeper, just kind of keeping everything picked up and straightened.
For sure. Yes. Things that Gary will not be able to do at first step. It will not be able to fold the laundry because it requires very, very gentle motoric with the fingers. And this is something that currently, I'm saying currently because we may solve this in the next couple of months, but currently it doesn't know how to fold the laundry. But besides that, potentially Gary can do almost anything that the maid does. Potentially anything. Obviously depends on the apps and the development process, which should be quite easier for a programmer. But we built it that way with all the functionalities, with all the devices, with all the sensors, with all the cameras, with all the interactions that potentially can perform 90+% of the homework made by a standard maid.
All right, so there's cameras and people are going to wonder this. I'm even wondering it myself. Okay. So is there a way to shut the cameras off? Let's say I'm walking around my house in my bedroom naked
Naked.
and I don't want to, so how do you basically disable it? Is it a verbal command like shut down cameras? Like how does that work?
So physically, Gary will arrive with a cover on each camera, like an hardware that covers the cameras themselves. So you'll know not just by saying to you, hey, Joe, trust us, we're not recording anything, Gary's not recording anything. No, you will see the cover on each of the cameras. However, when you tell Gary to do stuff, because Gary needs the cameras to be open to see what Gary is doing, then you will need to physically take off the cover and then Gary can work properly. If Gary is not being taken the cameras covered off, he will tell you, hey, Joe, I cannot perform the activity because I cannot see anything. Now, another thing that we're working on is to blur the silhouette of people who Gary identifies as humans inside the environment. For example, kids. We are not allowing Gary to take any type of recordings of kids. So if Gary identified a silhouette of a human shape, immediately the internal part of this silhouette will be blurred for Gary itself. Nobody will able to take out the recording to see what is going on in Joe's house in terms of the kids, not talking about the grown-ups, but I'm talking about specifically for kids. So this is something we consider very, very seriously. The privacy of the users is something that we always think about. Obviously, there may be some stuff that we haven't think about. So I invite the audience to put up any type of idea for us to protect their privacy on our skill portal board, on which we read almost on a daily basis, and we learn what kind of feedbacks or suggestions or recommendations user have with regard to different types of activity Gary may perform. And among others, we will be happy to learn what would be the privacy preventions or types of activity that the user recommends us to take in order to keep their privacy, as we should.
Right. So I'm very impressed that you guys thought about that. I mean, there's some of the questions I was going to ask you, but you've already thought about it. I mean, it's one of the things that you do have to be concerned about, but you guys already have a solution for it, and I think that's totally awesome. So you kind of told us a little bit of the background. So you said you were an attorney, but you had to somehow learn about this stuff, right? Or are you a self-educator? How did you go from attorney to robot developer?
So if there is one person in the human history, which I admire, except from my mother, is Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci, for me, is a person who, if I had one opportunity to sit with for a cup of coffee and just listen, this would be the person. And I think what was very impressive about Da Vinci was the ability to learn things from scratch and always challenge yourself to go outside of the box, both in the thinking, in the creativity, and in the knowledge that you acquire during your journey in this life. So I think I adopted, not as Da Vinci, and I'm not even close, but I adopted the concept of going outside of the box and learning something new every day. So I learned programming, I learned design, I learned UI and UX for mobile applications. I learned marketing. I learned product management. So I wouldn't say I'm Mark Zuckerberg. I wouldn't say I'm like the best programmer in the world. But those tools that I learned have been taught me to ask the relevant questions and to think in terms of a very general concept about things, about problems, and about the solutions that I want to find. So I guess it doesn't matter where you start your journey, it matters the way you go through each day of your life, learning something new and putting this experience in the bag while going in the road on the road and taking out from the bag the things that you need in order to solve the different challenges that you get in during the journey.
Amazing. And I think that's I think that's when I most entrepreneurs that I talk to, they're all daily learners, and we're all kind of learning from our community of other people around us, you know. So I think it's amazing. So what let's see. So is there a reason? I mean, you kind of told me like why you wanted to develop this, but are, were you always passionate about trying to make a robot that coexisted with people? You know, I mean, it almost seems like very Jetson-y, like sci-fi-ish, you know. So, I mean, as a kid, have you been like, oh my God, I'm going to have a robot one day, or kind of go into that a little?
I love balancing in life. I love the spirit and I like the material. I like literature and music, and I also like business and money. And I think that it's inevitable that the balance between man and machine will reach to a certain level in which we will live in coexistence with each other. And if we're going that way, and this is my belief, at least I want to have an impact on the way we coexist with each other. So if I can contribute at a certain level to the interactions between man and machine, I prefer it will be me that's trying to solve this challenge than somebody else. Um, so this is why I thought to jump into this pool, very complicated, very interesting, very challenging pool of problems and potential solutions, mostly because I'm interested in balancing between things in life.
Awesome. So how long, so like, how long is Gary's work day? You know, how long can Gary work before Gary needs to charge up?
So Gary workday on a full battery will be between 10 to 12 hours, depends on the amount of work that or the type of work that he needs to do. Charging will take between 5 to 7 hours, depends on the battery run out. But yeah, generally this is the amount of time that he will be needing.
So most of your orders, are they, what parts of the world are they coming from?
US and Canada.
Really?
California, yeah, a lot of from California, Canada, British Columbia, some from Europe, but mostly from the US and Canada.
So when I receive mine, how is it going to show up? You know, is it just going to show up in a box? How much assembly is needed?
Assembly would not be needed at all. It will arrive as a full grown Gary, like the the robot itself, and it will have the docking station on which Gary will go and charge itself. And that's it, basically. That's it.
That's pretty cool. All right. So, where do you think this can go for you? I mean, obviously you got hundreds of orders. Okay. I don't even think, you know, obviously you've got people that are just kind of, I don't want to say it the way that I'm thinking in my head, but kind of just the geek out about robots, right? Like guys like me that are like, I'm going to get one of these. But eventually people will see them and be like, I'm going to get one. It'll kind of be like the robot vacuum cleaner. So, A, you know, how do you guys think you'll handle that adoption curve? Because right now I'm assuming, where are they shipping from? I mean, where do they get manufactured right now, in Israel?
China, China,
Oh, in China.
China.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they'll have to come from there. Um, you know, and then when they do need warranty service, how do you guys handle that? What are your thoughts, kind of getting bigger picture?
So we're definitely going to open up an assembly center in the US. Seems like it will be either opened in Texas or in California. Somewhere in those two territories will open up both a service center and an assembly center, because we want to maybe manufacture the parts. Not all the parts are manufactured obviously in China, but to assemble everything and make it a USA, made in the USA for people in the US. So these are the plans. Because we're currently just beginning with the manufacturing, this is why we decided to make it in China. But this was just a tactic decision before we go deeper into opening up the centers where we want to focus, which is the US market.
So I'm gonna give you a little advice from a guy that's in the United States. Texas would make more sense, in my opinion, for you because it's centrally located and you don't have that big mountain range to get stuff from California out to the East Coast. So it's I'm kind of looking into these same types of things for stuff that I'm doing in the mowing field. So if for what it's worth, I'm dealing with somebody out of Sweden that got started with stuff in California, and the shipping is so much to get anything out of California. And if he would have started in Texas, it would have been way better for their company. So for what it's worth, that's my
No,
opinion
no,
for you.
that's a great advice. We also look at Tesla, for example, and Tesla, I think, announced a couple of weeks ago, a couple of days ago, that they will move their main center from wherever they are located, I think in North California, to Texas, to Austin, Texas. So we
Yeah.
do look at those companies, and I think it makes a lot of sense to move it to Texas or to other territories which are, I mean, geographically located in a central area from which they can distribute it to different types of states in the US.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm in the Chicago area and, I mean, you've got a big body of water right there with Lake Michigan, so you can still get ocean vessels in there to offload cargo. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, central is key. And like I said, just the issues for me to get stuff from California, like when I look at ground shipping, it's crazy how much more money it is because of the mountains. So okay, we'll get away from that. So tell me about your family. You said you've got three amazing kids, which
Yes.
inspired this amazing invention, an idea. Uh, so tell me about them. Tell me how old they are. Uh, Tell me about the mother that basically brought those kids into the world. Let me learn about your background.
She's also very patient to all my craziness about entrepreneurship and projects. So I have to appreciate her patience as well. She's an amazing mother and amazing wife. My kids' ages are 10, 7, and 5. And obviously, as every father says about his kids, I adore them. My life surrounds them. And I like the way they find solutions as kids for problems which I think may be complicated. Like one of my favorite books at all times is The Little Prince, and I recommend each of the audience listening to us to go and buy it and read it, because it doesn't matter what age you are. The Little Prince brings you back to the memories and the creativities and the simple things that you have been doing if you were a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old kid. So I really like the innocent creativity and the optimistic view of life that kids have. It always is, it always amazes me.
Yeah. Well, and kids have imagination still, right? They haven't been told to focus on something and just do it. They're constantly imagining and daydreaming, which, quite frankly, I think that's what entrepreneurs do. That's what makes the difference between an entrepreneur and a worker bee, or a chief or an Indian is, as they say it, is that you you're just constantly imagining, and that's what kids do. And it is inspiring to see kids kind of figuring out problems on their own and learning along the way.
You're
So,
right.
so can you see, so for me, like I always say, like with my daughter, it's like I told my daughter from a very young age that I saw so much of myself in her, she just didn't recognize it yet. And now she's kind of realizing, oh my gosh, I am my dad. So I mean, are there any of your kids that are more like you than they realize, and one that's more like your wife, or are they still too young yet for these characters to emerge?
So each of them is very, very different from the other, even though they are siblings, right? And each of them, when I look at them, I see different qualities and characteristics, both from me and my wife. One is very detailed oriented, which is very like my wife. The other is very charismatic, which is very like myself. One is very creative in terms of arts, which is very like my wife. The other is very creative. It is amazing to see how different they are. And something that is very important for me as a father, as a team player, as an employer of people, is to identify the different and empower it. I think that different is good. I don't want to be part of the same, I mean, assembly line, the same part as Charlie Chaplin had in his movie, like in the 20s. I want people to be different because each and every one of us is going through a journey, in my opinion, and should bring out different stuff from and take out different stuff from the journey and bring back to the community or to the road that he's going through. And this is why I always ask them to bring out the different and to focus on that, not on the general stuff, comply with everything, like be outside of the box. And I think outside of the box is a phrase that we repeated during this conversation because I don't think people should be in the box.
Yeah. Ve- Yep, I totally agree. So, um, so do you think, so why do you think that mainly it's the United States and Canada looking at the robots right now? Like, do you think there's a reason that we're into it? Because it's kind of strange for me to hear you say that, because when it comes to robotic lawn mowing, it's actually the opposite. It's Germany and Sweden, and there's 2 million robotic lawn mowers in Sweden, but there's hardly any in the United States yet. So I was interested in you saying that.
So I think the people who are going into the waiting list for Gary are the same people who purchased the Oculus, the Oculus from Facebook
I
when they
I have an Oculus, so
okay,
that's
so you
funny.
see,
Yeah,
so they
yeah.
are very, when I talk to them, and I try to talk to each and every one of them, is to understand what was the motivation, who are these people? Because for me is setting the expectations right for the first people that are buying Gary is very important. And what I get to discover is that those people are very tech savvy, tech oriented. They like new things, new consumer electronics, new gadgets. They want to explore. They're very curious about technology. So if you ask me to identify the common basic elements of those partners of us, those customers is that they are very tech oriented. So I think that most of them, if not all of them, all of the people who are in the waiting list are very tech savvy. Not sure that they will be the majority of people buying Gary, I mean, in the near future, but for now, for sure, this is something that we see.
Well, and that makes sense. The people that are willing to get it, even though it has some limited, it does have limited tasks, are the people that, like myself, that are like, this is cool. I'm going to have a robot moving around my house doing stuff that I don't want to do. Um, once the AI comes out and all the different apps come out, then you'll have solutions based Gary, which is Gary will be bought for a specific task, unloading dishes at a restaurant's dishwasher every day, every minute, making pizzas at a pizza place every day.
Exactly.
Uh, And then that's where you'll probably be getting the Europeans and everybody, right? So, so,
Exactly, Joe.
so I'm actually glad we broke that down because that's kind of an interesting thing, and it kind of makes sense to why, uh, um, why my robotic mowers haven't been flying off shelves in the United States unless I put them in a service model because nobody wants to try to figure out because there's nothing sexy about it. There's nothing sexy about something that moves around your yard and cuts the grass, but having a robot move around your house and can climb stairs and learn, that's kind of sexy. That's kind of cool to a tech person. So I like it. So do you have any mentors? Who was your biggest guiding light in your life? Obviously you sound like a great dad. You're a family guy. So I'm assuming I'm making this assumption that you come from a strong family background. Am I right by assuming this?
Yes, my parents are awesome, specifically my mother, who taught me so much about how to overcome failure. And I think that this was a great, great lessons that she taught me over the years because failure is inevitable. You're going to fail at some point of your life, some way or the other. But for me, as a parent, as a teacher for my kids, I think that the best lesson will be teaching them how to overcome those failures, how to learn from your mistakes and improve for the next time. And if you can create the right methodologies for overcoming failures at an early age, you'll be able to do that on a later age. And nothing can actually impact you for worse. It can only make you feel better and better because for every failure, if you learn out of it, you'll get better out of it. So it's always for the best for you. And I think this is a great lesson that my mother taught me through my entire life. And it's an ongoing lesson. It's not something that you just say once and and that's it. And yeah, she is very impactful on my life. I think that, you know what, a lot of people that I met during my life, not specifically one, but each of them taught me a different lesson, very important lesson that I take with me. And my mother always used to say that we have two ears and one mouth, so we can listen twice than we speak. And if we listen twice than we speak, then we hear more and we learn more than we actually, I mean, speaking. So,
Yeah.
so from every person that I met and I'm still meeting during all, on my road, on my journey, I learn a lot, and they are influential for me as others.
Yeah. Well, this is the whole reason I have my podcast because it forces me to listen and talk less because I like to talk and one of my mentors back when I was in my early 20s, that's what he used to say all the time, same thing. God gave you two ears and one mouth, so you listen twice as much as you speak. So that's interesting. So does your mom have a Gary yet? I feel like if I was the inventor and developer of a Gary, the first person that would get it would be my mom.
So,
So it's
so for sure. By the way, the platform name is Raya, and Raya is the name of my mother. the platform for the developers. So it's after her name. But once Gary is released from the lab, after we do all the QAs and everything at the end of the month, the first person who will get it is my mother.
So what did your wife think about that then?
She
Right?
understands. She
She
understands.
understood. That's good. You said she's a good wife. That's good. She understood.
Exactly. As I said, she's very patient about my craziness and my enthusiastic about my entrepreneurships project.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So, it, at the end of the day, I ask everybody on the show like what they, what their legacy is going to be, what you want to be remembered by or about, and you're a pretty young guy. So sometimes it's hard when I ask people this because it's like, this may not be, you may be just getting started. I feel like I'm just getting started, right? I'm 42, but at the end of the day, we all kind of have the thought of if this was the last thing we did, what do we want to be remembered by? So go ahead with that.
So I would be remembered, first of all, by my kids as a great example of a mensch, of a human being, a person who respects others, a person who gives a lot of space to other people's opinion and respects the different types of people around him are have the same type of, the same rights and obligation as him. So this is the first, element that I want to leave after I'm not here anymore. The second one is on the society. I would like to leave here this, I mean, the philosophy in which you can always do better, but the journey is not less important than the goal. Even, sometimes it's even more important. Kobe Bryant used to say there is no I in team. But then there is an I in win. Kobe Bryant really focused on the goal of winning, but I think that with all due respect, he was wrong. Why? Because the journey to get to the goal is not less important. So for me, if people will be ever interested in the road that I've been going through, hopefully, the goal will be a great achievement of building Unlimited Robotics to be a very impactful company on human being, on human society, on businesses and home environments. But at the end of the day, I want to leave here a memory that you should never give up during the way or your road to reach a certain goal. So for me, this is the philosophy that has been, I don't know, part of my life ever since I was a little kid.
Well, great answer. I love it. So most people don't give me a two-part legacy, one for their kids and one for their professional life. So I'm impressed. You might you're a top level earner on that last question. So Guy, I appreciate your time. I think this is a perfect spot to just say I learned a lot. It's a perfect spot to say we are going to have another show, maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years. I urge anybody to go and take a look. What is the website? What do they go to? I looked it up in my
So,
research, but
so it's
to find out about this
www.
robot.
So it's www.unlimitedrobotics.com.
So go check this thing out. It's pretty cool. Actually, it's really cool. And and then I'm going to show you a picture of mine at my dealerships, and then hopefully this just turns into something I put into my fixed labor burden rate at the dealership, and it becomes one of the things that my customers just come to know our dealerships about. So I think this is totally cool.
You will make me a
So
very happy person.